Now, we know it's going to be hot, but how hot over the weekend?
It's probably the peak of the heat wave over the weekend, Tina, and then things start to cool down next week with, yes, some showers in the forecast. Good evening to you. It's been very hot today. We saw a top temperature of 34 degrees in the southeast of England. We could see 35, maybe 36 degrees over the weekend. There is a chance of a few showers developing across Scotland and Northern Ireland, particularly as we head into Sunday.
As a drought is declared in parts of England, the Environment Agency warns it could last into next year.
And it's a hot and largely dry weekend ahead. We could see temperatures today and tomorrow topping at around 36 degrees. But we are hopeful we could see a little bit more rain and some cooler temperatures as we head into next week.
So I think, Sarah, that we're worried about the temperatures right now, of course, and the drought. There is change afoot, just not quite yet.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, there is some change, thankfully, on the way into next week. We are expecting things to turn a little bit more unsettled. But yes, this weekend is still looking hot and dry once again. By the time we get to Monday, in fact, we will have seen probably 8 consecutive days with temperatures above 30 degrees somewhere across the UK. But this is how we start the day. Similar scenes up and down the country, really. Blue sky with strong sunshine overhead. Fairly dry and parched looking conditions underfoot though. Now through the weekend then, hot and sunny, but yes, a few showers around later, particularly later on Sunday. Northern Ireland and Scotland seeing some of those heavy downpours, and we really could do with some rain, especially in the south. This is when it last rained. Odium in Hampshire 43 days ago, but widely across much of southern England, it's been between 3 to 6 weeks since we've seen any rainfall. So very dry, very hot. An extreme heat warning from the Met Office valid throughout the course of the weekend. So health impacts, as we've just been hearing from Dr. Sarah Jarvis, as well as problems potentially with travel and infrastructure as well.
Our reporter Sarah Rogers, as you can see, is in Derbyshire for us this morning. This is one of the 8 areas of England where an official drought has been declared. Sarah, what's it looking like where you are?
Well, it's really beautiful, Naga. The sunshine is out, the cyclists are out, the walkers are out. We've got some anglers heading out, and it sort of seems strange to be stood in front of such a really lovely, vast expanse of water talking about drought, but you can see that the banks are exposed. This is running at around 50% capacity at the moment. The one behind it, just a few miles away, that's at 15% capacity. Now, this is not normal summer levels. As mentioned, this is one of the 8 drought areas across the country. More are expected to be put into that as the end of the month goes on. So, what we want is to keep areas like this nice, and there will be an impact on wildlife and nature. We've got Rachel Bennett here from the Wildlife Trust who can tell us just what is some of the impact.
Hi there, good morning. Yeah, so here in the UK we're starting to see some of the real impacts of climate change and the climate emergency and the impacts that that's having on our local environments and for our local nature. So here we're stood in the beautiful Derbyshire Peak District, and you can see all around you we've got hills. So these are really precious peatlands that store a lot of carbon in those peat soils, and this landscape is becoming so much more susceptible to fire, and that is because we've got getting these extremes of heat and drought conditions that are occurring more and more with those impacts of climate change.
And there was actually a fire just sort of behind you really a few weeks ago. It took 5 days to put out. What impact did that have on wildlife as well?
Yeah, so absolutely. So here, just above us, just above this woodland here, like you say, there was a fire that week that we had those really high temperatures, and the impacts on wildlife that we saw here is complete and utter devastation, really, of those places that that wildlife lives.
And what sort of animals are we talking about?
So in this landscape, the whole ecosystem can be impacted, from the high bogs. And we're talking, sphagnum moss, which is there to build that peat, which stores the carbon. So things like little insects live in there that then the birds feed on. And then, we've got difficulties with food availability for lots of mammals because the soils are becoming really dry and hard. So, for example, badgers are really struggling to get at their invertebrate like worms and things like that they would usually eat. So things are really starting to struggle.
Thank you, Rachel. And of course, what comes with that is a long time to recover as well. So although people are asked to be mindful about their water usage, also be mindful about things like disposable barbecues, because, well, we want to keep this area as beautiful as it is today.
Of course we do. Sarah, thank you.
And if we can set aside all the worries about the drought and all those things, you can still look at a picture like that, Sarah, and think, summer looks beautiful.
It is beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, good morning to you, Charlie and Naga. This is the picture this morning in Shropshire, Ironbridge. Glorious start to the day there. Many of us waking up to very similar pictures. Beautiful blue sky overhead. But of course, we really could do with some rainfall now, particularly across central and southern England and Wales. Not much of that in the forecast, I'm afraid, as we head through the weekend.
So what we know is that 8 parts of England have officially declared a drought. It means that water companies can now put stricter measures in place to conserve water. Catherine Stanchesson is at a farm in Leicestershire, which is one of the areas where the drought has been declared. And Catherine, morning to you. You have company. It's feeding time. Is it breakfast time or breakfast?
It is. It's breakfast time indeed. Morning to both of you, but scorched yellow earth and animals that are struggling in the heat just like we do, although, as you say, these are pretty happy at the moment as it's breakfast time. But this is a picture up and down the UK countryside at the moment, and just look how dry this earth is, and this is all across this field and everywhere as well. Also, it's so early, but we're under a blazing sun already. Temperatures expected here to go over 30 degrees Celsius today. I'm just outside of Hinckley in Elmsthorp in Leicestershire, and this is one of the areas that has now been officially designated as being in drought. Yesterday, 8 areas, mostly in the south but also in the east, were put into that designation. We've got Northamptonshire and Lincolnshire and East Anglia, and here in the East Midlands as well. That does mean that restrictions are likely to come in. We haven't got a hosepipe ban here yet, but that is what could happen. Also, there are restrictions for farmers, particularly around planting.
And we heard from the Wildlife Trust as well earlier that some of these specialist areas, you know, from fire and from drought conditions, they will just take hundreds of years to recover. And back to the water issue, there is no hosepipe ban in place here. People are being asked to be mindful of their water usage, but also no disposable barbecues either, because, you know, look, it's beautiful, it's still green, it's lovely here, and the idea is to keep it that way.
Sarah, thank you. Can I just ask, no offence, but can I ask your camera operator just to give us a shot just of the place you're in, just to give us a little look at it? If you could.
No offence taken, it's absolutely beautiful. Come on, Clive, let's get out of the way.
Oh, that is lovely. Look at all of that.
Ladybower Reservoir, absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it's the two things we can see there, and we'll bring in Sarah, Weather Sarah, now, because that illustrates two things. One is it is a beautiful day and there are going to be people loving it there, but also, you know, very manifest the drought situation.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Good morning to you, Charlie, and good morning to you, Naga, and you at home too. Lots of us seeing very similar conditions to that. Blue sky overhead, certainly, but the ground is looking really dry and really parched out there. So this is the picture in Hampton Wick in West London at the moment. And as we head through the rest of the weekend, not a huge amount of change. It's looking hot, it is looking sunny, some rain in the forecast, some showers around later tomorrow, and they'll be mainly for Scotland and for Northern Ireland. No rain in the forecast for the next couple of days across much of England and Wales, where we could really do with some of this. Rewind to 1976. It was certainly obviously a very hot summer for the first part of their summer. There were downpours later that year, and that's really what we do need. We need some rainfall, and some of us are going to see it as we head through the second half of this weekend and into next week as well. But for the here and now, yeah, it's all about the dry weather. It's all about the heat. This is the picture. Glorious morning there. This is Port Bannatyne in Argyll and Bute, but it could be the Caribbean, couldn't it, with those blue skies and tropical looking plants around. Now, through the rest of this weekend, then things aren't changing in a hurry. So it is hot, it is sunny. In fact, those temperatures have been building day on day this week, and they're going to continue to do so. But there are a few showers in the forecast, more especially through tomorrow. But more of a chance that those heavy downpours could push across more parts of the UK through the course of next week. So it's cooler, and there are some thundery showers around too.